I've been telling you about the fiscal cliff that we are headed over if Congress refuses to act. One incredibly rocky area of the cliff is the so-called sequester, which is a stupid name for a stupid thing. $1.2 trillion in automatic spending cuts over 10 years. Half of those cuts will come from defense, including $55 billion alone next year. Jobs will be lost. Possibly more than 1 million defense-related jobs next year. Most of them, by the way, are not government jobs. The bulk of the pink slips will come from private contractors who are hired by Uncle Sam. I don't know if that number's right, the 1 million jobs. I don't know if it's right or wrong. Some people say the number is alarmist, but let's even say it's in the ballpark. That would be equivalent, take a look at these red bars, to all of the jobs created this year. I'm not willing to take that chance, and your Congress shouldn't be either. Defense companies aren't waiting around. They're already starting to prepare for the job losses. Why? Because of something called the WARN Act. The Obama administration says the act doesn't apply here, and that is triggering a political firestorm. But before we get to that, you need to know what the WARN Act is. So I want to bring in CNN's Poppy Harlow. Poppy, tell us what the WARN Act is and what it has to do with defense cuts.
Yeah, you know, Allie, most people haven't heard of it, but it's important because if you work for even a medium to a big-sized company, this applies to you. It's technically called the Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act. It was passed back in 1988. What it does is it requires any employer with 100 or more workers to send out these notices 60 days in advance if they're going to close a plant or if they're going to have mass layoffs. So if defense contractors have to do mass layoffs because of government spending cuts, for example, they very well may need to send out these notices. So what is a mass layoff? 500 or more employees, or if your company is smaller than 500 employees but 100 or larger, 33% or a third of your workforce. If you're going to cut that many people, you need to send these notices out. So here's where it gets political, and here's where timing is so important, okay? Sequester, as you said, Allie, a stupid name for a stupid thing. That would take effect, if it happens, January 2nd. So what's 60 days before that? When would these notices have to go out? November 2nd, just a few days before the election. So imagine getting, you know, a notice saying you've lost your job just as you head to the polls. So the big question now is, does this apply in this case? The Labor Department came out this week, and they said no. They issued guidance, which is this quote, and they basically said, well, we don't know if sequester is going to happen, and so we don't know if these job cuts are going to come, so it would be, quote, inappropriate to send out a notice. Well, Republicans say, look, that guidance is politically motivated. Take a listen.
The only reason the administration sent out this guidance to employers earlier this week was to keep people in the dark, keep them in the dark about the impact these defense cuts will have until, of course, after the election.
All right, that's Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. So Republicans siding with him on this. The Obama administration, the Labor Department saying, you know, you shouldn't be alarmist here. We shouldn't send out these notices because we don't know if these job cuts are going to come. Allie, ultimately, it's going to be up to the companies themselves whether or not they want to send out these notices. And, Allie, as you know, if they don't send out the notices and then do mass layoffs, they could get sued. Right. So it's going to be really interesting to see whether the companies do this or not. And it's absolutely political at this point. The Obama administration, through the Labor Department, saying inappropriate to send those notices out.
So once again,
these job cuts may come.
Once again, we've got uncertainty by employers not knowing what to do, and that could end up costing Americans jobs. Poppy, thanks for a great explanation. What are these